disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this fantastic day so far. So I want to add this into our conversation about free speech, and as we're talking about social media now, the implications of what censorship, the kind of damages that will do to reputation of society. Bring a point to this because this is fascinating. So JD Vance, who is now the elected VP under Trump's victory in the election, JD Vance on how the U.S. should respond when NATO countries threaten Americans like Elon Musk over free speech. And that is in response to cases like in Brazil, for example, that they want to suppress X from reaching its country. There's people in the EU, there's people within the Australian government that want to criminally charge Elon Musk for allowing people to have free speech on a platform that they want hands-on control of. And there's a lot of countries that are pushing this collective narrative done by NATO because NATO is this militant mafia that is trying to stranglehold these countries to implement their agenda. They go and attack, they demonize other territories around the world, and they say that, hey, you got to join this alliance because we're going to make sure your country is safe, and if you don't do that, then something might happen to you. That's what NATO does. And these countries that are in this alignment are pushing this agenda to suppress and criminally charge someone who's willing to at least step out and provide people a platform of speech. Here's what here's what JD Vance says about that.
The leader, I forget exactly which official it was within the European Union, but sent Elon this threatening letter that basically said, we're going to arrest you if you platform Donald Trump, who, by the way, is the likely next president of the United States. So what America should be saying is, oh, if NATO wants us to continue supporting them, and NATO wants us to continue to be a good participant in this military alliance, why don't you respect American values and respect free speech? Excuse me, it's insane that we would support a military alliance if that military alliance isn't going to be pro-free speech. I think we can do both, but we've got to say American power comes with certain strings attached. One of those is respect free speech, especially in our European.
So what he's stating is that, hey, if you want America to join this alliance and continue on this alliance, we're going to come to the table and we're going to have our own decisions to be made here. That we're not just going to blindly go with this militarized PSYOP organization that blackmails countries like they do in Canada. They blackmail us to get into these arbitrarious wars, even though we're supposed to be a free kind of peacemaking country. We are now warmongers because Canada, our parliament, doesn't have the moxie or the balls that apparently JD Vance has when it comes to stepping out the plate and say, listen, we're gonna join this alliance. You have to respect our policies. You have to respect our values. We value free speech. If you want us to join, you're gonna have to respect that. Canada doesn't do that. Canada just blindly folds itself into the NATO alliance. It just goes wherever it flows. But listen to that again.
The leader, I forget exactly which official it was within the European Union, but sent Elon this threatening letter that basically said, we're going to arrest you if you platform Donald Trump, who, by the way, is the likely next president of the United States. So what America should be saying is, oh, if NATO wants us to continue supporting them, and NATO wants us to continue to be a good participant in this military alliance, why don't you respect American values and respect free speech? Excuse me, it's insane that we would support a military alliance if that military alliance isn't going to be pro-free speech. I think we can do both, but we've got to say American power comes with certain strings attached. One of those is respect free speech, especially in our European allies. Like, look, I'm not going to go to some backwoods country and tell them how to live their lives, but European countries should theoretically share American values, especially about some very basic things like free speech.
So it seems that seems common sense to me. That seems obvious common sense that, hey, maybe before we sign up and enlist ourselves into this alliance that we know is absolutely corrupted, that there are arbitrators that are not in the purpose of defense or maintaining peace or whatever motto that they falsely accuse themselves on. We know that they blackmail countries. We know that it's a military group or proxy war to annihilate certain countries, kill their reasons for their corporate. But even so, even if you're on the side of NATO, yeah, you should have some restrictions. Yes, you should have um, some sort of yin and yang. And one of them being, yeah, you should respect free speech at least. That should be the base model of trying to get our support, that you respect Americans' right, our fundamental right of free speech. That seems like the obvious thing. And I just wish that, more Canadian officials, more European officials follow that same pursuit. But you won't hear it from them. You won't hear it from them because they also serve their corporate donors, the same corporate donors that aid in NATO. So they're just going to fall into line. They're just going to be complete cowards. They're going to just do whatever NATO wants. And if NATO doesn't get their way, then NATO's going to blackmail those countries and say, well, it would be a shame if you got off the security of NATO. It'd be a shame what happens to your country. And that's because those people don't have the implications that JD Vance is proposing, that Donald Trump imposes. That, hey, we're going to challenge, if we're going to sign up to this alliance, that there's going to be implications. There's going to be certain measurements that you have to abide by, and one of them being free speech. Seems the obvious right sense to me. And just the bare minimum of what we can be doing. The bare minimum. Now, I would argue and say that, NATO isn't exactly an alliance that you should be even considering aligning yourself with. I think more and more countries should out the factor. I mean, so many protests in like France, for example, that are protesting uh the country's alignment with NATO, how they need to get out of it, how they need export themselves out of this outrageous military occupation of NATO alliance. And it's waking a lot of people up to understand that this allyship that we're supposed to pretend is good, and we're supposed to pretend that we're helping our neighbors and friends and family if we keep good allies with the worst of the worst. It's not a relation on good values. Let's just say that. NATO is not protecting good values. They're protecting their own self-interests. And the more you continue to align yourself with an occupation like that, the more damaging it's going to do for not only the people that NATO has provoked war on, but it's also going to be damaging for your country. I mean, look what happened with our endless warfare with Ukraine. They want to establish NATO, Ukraine to become a NATO country. They want, prosperity. They want to respect the democracy of Ukraine. What they really wanted was to use Ukraine as cannon fodder sacrifice to go up against Russia so they can break apart Russia, or thought they could break apart Russia, and sell it off to BlackRock, just like they're doing now with Ukraine. And because of all this, because all the NATO-aligned countries cowardly folded in that action, places like Canada here are stuck with the consequences of increased inflation. How we're subvertly stealing our natural resources and our finances to aid this never-ending war, this proxy war that we knew from the start was an absolute disgrace, an absolute disaster, and was never going to come at an outcome of resolution. How they've wanted to continuously attack Russia over there, so we don't have to attack them over there. And now with Donald Trump being elected, there may be possibility and opportunity to actually have peace negotiations before the statistics of the number of people dead in Ukraine further increases. I think it's over 1 billion now as we're talking. Over 1 billion Ukrainians died. And more is to come if we had these NATO countries align themselves with this mafia that has no interest in preservation of people, in humanity, and no arbitration to the people that align themselves with the military alliance. Like, you don't respect the values of America. Why should America sign up then? You don't respect the values of Canadians. Why should Canadians be forced into align with NATO? What do we get out of it? Nothing. So that's amazing. That, to me, that just makes the most common sense. But JD Vance, what a weird guy. As some people still say. What a weird fella. I guess common sense is weird considering, the last how many years of lying and manufacturing discourse away from actual thought and actual, real implication reality. We just coddle ourselves with these weird, sane idioms, get us subverted away from reality. And the real reality is that NATO are not good people, that they're consequentially hurting more and more people, or this alliance gets further developed into other nations. And it's not a good outcome for anybody, either whether you're part of the allyship or the country that's in war right now because of NATO. Not good outcome.